Catalytic converters are one of those unassuming car parts almost everyone's heard about, usually after theirs gets stolen. But what actually goes into making one? It's a wild mix of chemistry, metallurgy, and a surprising amount of expensive metal. Step 1. Let's talk about the core. Every catalytic converter starts with a ceramic honeycomb structure, kind of like a tiny beehive. This isn't just for looks. Those tiny hexagonal channels give you maximum surface area to catch pollutants while letting exhaust flow through easily. Here's the first pain point. Making that ceramic core is not simple. It's usually made of cordierite, a material that has to be extruded, dried, and fired at temperatures pushing 1400 degrees Celsius. If the kiln gets too hot or cool, the whole batch is garbage. Once that core is ready and cooled, it gets a delicate wash coating. Imagine dipping your favorite mug into a bowl of invisible paint that's actually a slurry loaded with alumina and silica. This coating needs to be thin enough to not clog the channels, but thick enough to bind platinum group metals in the next step. And now for the wallet-busting part. Platinum, palladium, and rhodium. Even though they make up less than 1% of the converter's weight, these precious metals are 90% of the cost. You need these because nothing else does a better job at zapping up carbon monoxide and nitrogen oxides into harmless gases. They spray or dip the core in a solution with these metals, and then it goes through another firing process. This bonds the metals to the wash coat without letting any particles escape. Critical, because every stray particle is like losing a few $100 to thin air. By now, the core looks wildly unimpressive, which is maybe the point. No thief's going to stop over the beauty. But here's where it meets its shell, a stainless steel canister that's built to handle temperatures hot enough to melt aluminum. It's crimped tightly around the core and sealed to be leak-proof. A big issue at this stage is thermal expansion. Ceramic expands differently from steel, so clever engineers add a fiber mat or metal mesh called a mat mount to hold everything in place. Otherwise, the core can rattle loose inside the can and break apart, which is exactly as bad as it sounds. Assembly lines for converters stamp out thousands of shells per day and stuff them with robotic arms. But every one has to pass a quality check. If the metals aren't distributed evenly, your emissions skyrocket, and you risk failing those state inspections people in Portland love so much. Here's a pro tip. Some converters get fancy with extra sensors or a split-core system. Those premium models demand even more precise metal placement, adding another couple layers of quality control. Still, even these can be made in under an hour in a well-run factory. Once assembled, the completed catalytic converter is welded into the exhaust system. This is one of those rare car repairs you don't want to cheap out on with aftermarket parts. Lower-grade converters might cut corners, risking the entire emissions system and your peace of mind. Overall, each step in making a catalytic converter is about getting the chemistry and the engineering exactly right. The pain is real. Between costly metals and strict regulations, even a small defect means scrapping the whole thing. But when it works, it turns thousands of toxic particles into clean air every second you drive.